We'll do a review on Likutei Sichos in the Chelik Chav Hey. This is the second Sicha for the Parshas Breishis. In this Sicha, the Rebbe explains a statement in the Gemara that one who is born on Thursday, the Gemara says, will be a kind person, because the Gemara says the fish were born on Thursday, were created on Thursday, and as Rashi explains, the fish have a tremendous kindness of Hashem, and therefore a person born on that day would also have kindness. So the Rebbe wants to know, how is this more than when you say that all Yidden naturally have kindness in themselves? So it's not just a person born on Thursday. And the Rebbe explains that there's different level in kindness. There's a measured kindness, which we all have. That's naturally, it's in our DNA. But then for the exceptional kindness, that is one who is born on a Thursday. We're learning the Sicha, Lilu Nishmas, our son, Harav Levi Yitzchok ben Chaim Tzvi, should be a benefit for his soul, Tehei Nishmosei Tzrura B'Tzrein HaChaim. It's an unusually shorter Sicha, and we'll go step by step. Aleph. The Gemara Zokti Mesechta Shabbos. The Gemara says in Tractate Shabbos. So the Gemara says, "Hayman den noilad b'chamisha b'Shabbat." One who is born on Thursday, the fifth day of the week, on Thursday. Yihi gever goimel chasod. He will be a man, a person who acts kindly, who does kindness. My timer. What's the connection that if he's born on Thursday? Mishum di ivru bei dogim v'oifes. That's a day when the fish and the birds were created, and that was a special kindness of Hashem when He created the fish and the birds. What's the special kindness? They don't have to trouble themselves for their food. Rashi says that they are fed by the kindness of Hashem. So since the Eibishter created and He acted kindly on the day of Thursday, when He created the fish and the birds, and they are special that they don't have to work hard for their food, they're fed. So a person who's born on that day in which Hashem showed this kindness will also be exceptional, will be a kind person. So the question is, but every Yid is naturally kind. What is this added kindness? Dafman Farstein, we need to understand. The Gemara zokt in Yevamis. The Gemara in Yevamis says that Shloisha Simonim Yesh Mazu, that there are three signs that this nation, the Jewish people, have. The three signs: Harachmonim, that they're compassionate, Chulu, Goim Lechasodim, they act kindly. So acting kindly is one of the characteristics. That's one of the signs of this nation, of the Jewish people. Vahainu. So that means, as the midah for Gemilas Chasodim, that trait, that character trait of acting kindly, is betava kol Yisrael betul doisum. That's in the nature of all Yid from birth. Is vos is that oiftu in them yihi gever gemel chasodim. So what is the novelty in by saying he's going to be a man who acts kindly? If he's born if he's born on Thursday, the fifth day of the week, the Gemara says he'll be an acting kindly. So what is the advantage? What's the novelty legabe the midah for gevilos chasodim when you measure it relative to the character of acting kindly? Shebeteva kol Yisrael b'tudosim, which is the nature of all Yidden from birth. That's part of who they are, whether they're born on Thursday or any other day of the week. And yet we're saying the person who's born on Thursday is going to be acting kindly. Base. So the Rebbe says, Rashi, in explaining it by using the Lashon that the Chazdei, that they were fed, Rashi says they were nizunim b'chazdei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The kindness of Hashem is an unlimited, it is a limitless kindness, and that's the additional kindness that we're talking about here, that somebody who was born on Thursday. Let's look aside. Base, as their beard in them is nirmas in Lashon Rashi, that the explanation of this is hinted in Rashi's language. It says, Nizoinim b'chazdesh l'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. They are fed by the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that means like this: the Yisrael from Yom Chamishi Shal Ma'aseh Breishis. What is the advantage of the Thursday, the fifth day of the creation, of the act of creation? Is was demut ot meir given chazde shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then what shined, what came across was the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Was is a chesed bli gvul. That is a kindness that has no limit. Vorum kishem with the Eibishter is ein soif, just like Hashem is endless. Azoy seinen midosef ein soif. So also his measures, his characteristic, his kindness is also limitless, no end to it. And that came about on Thursday. That is why we find the concept of so many of enormous quantity. Specifically by Thursday, we find the great number of creations, dogim, by fish. By fish, it says, it says they should be like fish, many in the land. When you want to give them the blessing, that they should be many and numerous. So the Torah says to be like fish. There should be numerous like the fish. So therefore, that's the expression of the kindness of Hashem. Now, you're going to say that this is a blessing for the fish. The Rebbe says it has an actual practical application to people as well. This Thursday, that besides what the Gemara was saying now, but we're saying that it's like fish, we see that the marriage was set up that people get married on Wednesday, and therefore, and they mate on Thursday because of the blessing of the fish on Thursday. Was those birchas adogim? But those birchas dogim, the blessing for fish, is oich negeit to them adam. This also is connected. It touches. It's applicable to the person. But the Gemara said besula nisas baravis, that a besula gets married on the fourth day, on Wednesday. When if Elis b'chamishi, and then she is nivel on Thursday, hoyil v'nemraboy, because on Wednesday the bracha l'dogim, there's a blessing for dogim. So the v'yidgu l'roiv, that even though it was set for fish, but that applies to the people as well, as we see that the bracha will be for the people getting married, that this should take place on Thursday. But why do we need to do it on Thursday, which has the blessing of fish, but we have the blessing for the humans, which is on Friday, on the sixth day? Although that on the sixth day of creation there is a blessing for the human. Here we're talking about marriage, human beings being married. So why are we looking for Thursday to get the blessing of the fish? There is still an advantage also in the blessing to the fish on Thursday, with regards to the blessing for a person. By the person, it doesn't say there should be numerous. That's only l'roiv. It says only by fish. But stavke by dogim is not the rinya ribu. It's specifically by fish that we have this idea of being so numerous. V'yidgu l'roiv b'kerev ha'aretz. They should be like fish, numerous in the land. But thus is the matorah for nisuyim. That's the goal. The purpose of marriage is pru revu, to be fruitful and numerous to fill the world with people. And therefore, we want to have the bracha that is set for the fish, that it should apply. And that's why the marriage, the nivala, takes place on Chamishi, on Thursday, to get the bracha. So you see the special idea of numerous as it pertains dafka to fish. And this is why when we say that if you were born on Thursday and there was the special blessing of Hashem's midah of Ein Sof, that he has no limit in his measure of kindness, that is what's added to a person born on Thursday. Und das ist der Chiluk zwischen dem, was Kol Yisrael seinen Goimlich Hasadim. That's the difference between all Yidden, whenever you're born, are acting kindness, b'tivam naturally, und der Tabak Milus Chesed von Anele B'yem Chamishi, and the nature of acting kindly from one who is born on this fifth day, on Thursday. Tava Chesed was his faram by Kol Yisrael b'til doisom, the nature of kindness which exists by all Jews from birth naturally is mit amedida v'hagbola, that has a measure and a limit. For b'pashtus, what does it mean that it's a limited kindness? Bisgreit zuton chesed mit andere, you are ready to do kindness with others, aber nicht in an Eufen, but it's not in such a way that you should be ready, prepared to bend all of your own personal needs in order to act kindly. No, you're acting kindly, but you're not ready to forego your own needs. Oder durchgehend zu leave them andere Schwierigkeiten, or to have to go through other difficulties in order to act kindly with others. That's not the natural, the normal, usual kindness that all Yidden have. It's to a limit. Not that causes you difficulties, and also not to overbend your own needs. There was his chamishi, but as opposed to one who is born on the fifth day, Vens is Meir Chazde Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in which the kindness of Hashem shines, is by him the Teva HaChesed L'maylam HaGbola. So his nature of kindness is beyond limitation. Das heißt, which means sein Chesed is nit nor a viful Simonzich mitzad sein midas HaChesed. It means his kindness is not only the extent that is expected, that is you demand because of your character of chesed, which every yid has anyway. It's more than what your own characteristic of chesed, being a Jewish person, demands. But the fact that you were born on Thursday, was is kishma, but then when we say normally, when you have the word midah, it comes, the character comes to the word measure. It's a measured chesed. What's this kishma b'midah v'agbola, as we call it, the midas chesed, the natural. It's a measure of chesed. That means it's a chesed with a measure. Even though, and even if it's a situation you do the chesed as should be, and which means to the extent that you should do. But if it's just a chesed that is a midas chesed, it's still a measure. Notwithstanding that you're doing it the way you should, but it's measured. But what is added, the fact that you were born on Thursday, nor mesiras nefesh of chesed. But this is to have self-sacrifice on chesed, on keinem medida v'agbola, without any measure, without any limitation. So the Rebbe says now, how does one become a vessel for acting and being in such a level of an unlimited kind of chesed is through humility. That's the vehicle to receive the kindness of Hashem. The Gimel, the Keli of Chazde Shel HaKadosh Baruch HaBilti Mugbal. What is the vessel to receive, to be a vehicle to receive the kindness of Hashem, which is not limited? is the inyan from bittul. That's the idea of subjugation. Calls man that Adam feels sein eigene Metzius, for as long as the person feels his own self, his own entity, can by him nicht sein der inyan von chesed for another mention. So you cannot it cannot be by him the idea, the concept of kindness for another person, believe me, without measure and limit. If you feel yourself, if you're an entity, you feel yourself, there's no way that you can give kindness to another person without any limit or any measure. Davke Bishas said is Mavatl Zaymitzias, specifically when he negates, subdues his own self, his own entity. He doesn't feel so much himself. Und seine eigene Rezönes and his own needs. Ken bei ihm sein b'chol meidecha. Then you can be with all your measure, beyond limit, to be in a way without measure and limitation. The only way you're going to have mo'idecha with all your being, beyond the measure, is if you are humility and you don't have your own self and you don't have your own desires, but you sort of are humbled and you put yourself away. And that's how fish get this blessing from Hashem, an endless blessing, is because they also have this characteristic of being humble. And this is hinted by fish. They are the ones that get the blessing, and numerous without any limitation. The dogim zainen kol kulam mechusim b'mayim. The dogim, they're entirely covered by water. You don't see the fish. The fish are not exposed. They're covered, entirely covered by the water. Azoy as ezetzich litonzer mitzias, to the extent that you don't see their existence. Nor the mitzias samayim mechasim aleim. All that you see is the water, the entity of the water that covers them, but you don't see fish. The Gemara says, as while mayim echasim aleim of the dogim, because the water covers over the fish, they're covered. The fact is ein hora sheletes behem. No evil eye dominates them because you don't see them. My time is if they show you the birchas Hashem b'yoser, for that reason, upon them rests tremendously the blessings of Hashem, and that is because they're covered and they're not open. And something which is covered gets the greater blessing. No ein hora and gets greater blessing. V'yeshloimar. So the Rebbe explains that shebipnimi is in the inner is mayim mechasim aleim. The fact that they're covered by water, nit nor shoylel the shlita for ein hora. Not only does it negate that the evil eye should not be able to dominate heipach habrocha, which is the opposite of the blessing. So being covered protects them from the ein hora and the heipach habrocha nor oich poil an chiyuvi, but it also accomplishes something positive. That's the humility the Rebbe is talking about. By being covered, they become fit and they become vessels to the blessings of Hashem, which that cover is not only a protection, but actually makes them fitting vessels to receive the Vabir. And what's the explanation? What does this represent when the water covers the fish, gives them all these blessings? And that's why they have the blessing of the Bligvul, Nizunim Bechazdish LaKodesh Baruch Hu. So the explanation is as follows. Mayim Zainen the Moker HaChayis von Dogim. Water is the source of life of the fish, which means fish need the water to live. That's the source where they get life from. Biz as dosi zer emes emetzias. And that's really, it's not only that they live from it, that becomes their entity, which is also has a halachic expression. Was the far halt Rab Shimon Gamliel as kol shu mebriya samayim is nit chaytzis b'fnei hamayim. Rab Shimon Gamliel is of the view that anything that is created from the water, which means the Eberster says Yishlitzu Hamayim, but the water created, that will not be a chatzitza on the person, an interruption, because its water doesn't interrupt. That means even as being a fish, it's still considered like water. So you have to immerse yourself in a mikvah, and you have interference from a fish or something that comes from the water. That would not be a chatzitza. Why? Because a fish in essence is water, because it comes, that's the source. Das heißt, as dogim haben sich a tchuna von bittel zu mekerche yusuf. That means that the fish have a characteristic which is subjugation to the source of their life force, which means the life force is water, and that becomes their entity, and they're subjugated to it. And the far is bazei faran der inyan from the ribu l'maylam haragil. And that's why there is the numerous so much more than the usual, is for that same reason, is because they are that sense of subjugation, of non-entity, because they have that characteristic of humility, of self-negation, which is the prerequisite to get all that enormous amount of blessing from Hashem, which is beyond the usual. Is in Avodas Odom. Similarly, it's in the service of man. Kedei zu me'erer sein bei sich dem emerson höchsten Eufen von Gemilus Chasodim. In order for a person to wake up by himself, the true and the highest level of acting kindly, Chesed b'li agbola, to give kindness without limitation, was is verbunden mit Chasdi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is tied with the kindness of Hashem. In other words, when you want to act like Hashem, because Hashem is limitless, and you want to encourage yourself or wake up by yourself that characteristic of kindness of Hashem in a unlimited way. So then it requires the work, the service, to impact by yourself the subjugation to Hashem. Und das ist Teuchen Kavanosse shel Rashi bepirusha of Posik. And this is the idea of Rashi's intent. The meaning Rashi says in the Posik, Uboisid Bokum. So the Posik says you should cleave to Hashem. So Rashi says, Hadbig b'drachav. How do you connect to Hashem? Connect in the Hashem's ways. Do act like Hashem. Act kindly as Hashem did. That's the way to connect. That means you should connect to Hashem, to go in the path, follow Hashem. When a Yid serves Hashem in a way in which he connects to Hashem, to connect, bei sich zu stehen in Advekus Amitis. He impacts, he was able to affect himself that he should be standing in a true cleaving mit Neighborston to Hashem, really to connect to Hashem. Ubeäufen in a way, as er filled mit sein eigener Metzias, in a way that he does not sense his own self, but blows the Neighborston, all what he senses is Hashem. So that is Dovok, to whom he's connected. He doesn't feel himself, but he feels the one he's connected to. So Uboisid Bakun, Damul Tutzuchoy Beim Gemilus Chasodim. Then his act of kindness is accomplished in a way B'derech Memelin and Eifun. It becomes Kimashos HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like Hashem did. A kindness without measures and limitation. So Rashi is translated as Uboisid Bakun. If you connect to Hashem, then you will act kindly as Hashem acted kindly, because in that case is not going to be your Metzias, is going to be only Metzias of Hashem. So therefore, just like by fish, the reason they are so numerous is because that level of subjugation, the fact that they're covered by the water, it's not only that it doesn't allow no negative ayin hara, but it actually is the positive of that subjugation that makes them so fruitful, makes them a vehicle and a vessel to the infinite blessing of Hashem. Same thing as a person when he is subjugated himself. And that's the only way you can really be act kindly fully. When you subjugate yourself to Hashem, then you open yourself up to Hashem's blessing, and it happens automatically that you get you act kind because it's not anymore about you. Then you're acting kindly like Hashem did. All of the above has a special connection to our generation. That inyan miyuchad hanal from dogim, that special idea of fish that we're saying about the subjugation, that they are under the water and they get as numerous, is verbunden mit Yosef HaTzadik. That is associated with Yosef HaTzadik. We say that this was said to Ephraim and Menashe when Yaakov benched them, v'yidgu l'roi b'kerev ha'oretz, Hayois as the bracha v'yidgu l'roi b'kerev ha'oretz, that bracha, there should be like fish many in the land, is gizog v'ram b'shayches to b'nei Yosef. That was said in connection to the sons of Yosef, that they should be numerous like the fish in the land. So that means it's connected to Yosef. With the Gemara zogt, and the Gemara says, as the far is ein ayin hora sheletus, that there is no evil eye dominating by Zarei Shel Yosef, by seed of Yosef, because they're like fish, they're protected. Ukedivrei Rabbi Yochanan, as Rabbi Yochanan said, that he's not afraid from an ayin hora, no mizara the Yosef koas, the loy shaluto be'ein abisha. I come from this seed of Yosef that no evil eye dominates, so I'm not afraid of an ayin hora. So you see that Yosef is not impacted by any negative ayin hora and has the blessing of Yid Guluroi. So it's a shaykhis to Yosef. And this is the shaykhis l'dareinu zeh. That's the connection to our generation. That my father-in-law, the Rebbe, the leader of our generation, is Shmoy Harishon Yosef. His first name is Yosef. The Anhoge von Kveit Kedushus Merechom Admur is given in an Eufen. The conduct of my father-in-law, the Rebbe, was in such a way from V'yidgul l'roiv b'kerev ha'odutz. He made it like fish, numerous in the land. Erot Meifitz given the Mayonos von Teures HaChasidus mit ha'hisrachvus gedoyla. He disseminated, he spread the well springs of the teachings of Chasidus in a tremendous wide way, without any measure and limitation. In an in a way that it should reach every place and place. It's also inside the land. In the Toich years from Eres ve'Artzius, in the inside from the land and the materialism, the earthiness of the world, to the lowest places that there's nothing lower, all the way to the bottom. And in the known language as was used, to spread the well springs to the outside, in the to such an outside where there's nothing outside of it. That is Yosef, that is Laroiv, that is spreading Chassidus in that way. Und zusammen damit, and together with going and being so numerous, he did not worry about the evil eye, which would be Mayemru Habrius. What are people going to say? They're going to criticize, or as we find Lama Tisro in the Pasuk, Yaakov was saying to his son, they shouldn't go in altogether. Why should they show up or not go and get the food to show that they have food and without to show? But he didn't care to show off, spread out the Chassidus. This is also the lesson and the instruction in actuality. As men darf sich oisig sein in afotzas amyonos chutza. that one needs to occupy yourself in disseminating the wellsprings to the outside. But the grester Israch was on the widest way, the biggest, and in the widest forms. As the Mayonis of Baal Shem Tov on the Grechem b'chol mokim umokim, that the wellsprings of the Baal Shem Tov, Ma'inei Secho, which is Chasidus, Pnimis HaTorah, should reach in every place and place. Und b'shas men steht in atnuah from Bittel, when you stay in that movement of subjugation, uboisid bokum, und das wird aufgetan durch Haddig with Talmidei Chachamim. By connecting to Talmidei Chachamim, you connect to the Eibishter. As the Gemara asks, how could you connect to the Eibishter, but you connect to Talmidei Chachamim? So when you connect to the Rebbe's vision, to the Rebbe's instructions, is nitovos to chosher zayin, that we don't have to worry for eine bishe, for a bad eye, evil eye. Balachas kam v'kama nit for andere Schwierigkeiten, and certainly not for other difficulties. You don't have to worry, because Yosef, you're the children of Yosef. It doesn't worry eine bishe. You get the tremendous success. You disseminate it in a tremendous way without having to worry about eine bishe. Durch them, was mis memale bizrizus the shlichus. And through this, that you in a quick way fulfill the mission of Yafutzu Meinesacha Chutza, to spread the wellsprings to the outside, but Mekuyim better noch schneller, so even quicker will be fulfilled Bizrizus, the Avtocha from Melech HaMashiach zum Baal Shem Tov, the promise of King Mashiach to Baal Shem Tov. Ask Yafutzu Meinesacha Chutza, when your wellsprings will disseminate to the outside, then the master, that's Mashiach, the King Mashiach, will come. We made it very speedy in our days. So the Rebbe says the special lesson for our generations, whose leader is Yosef, his name is Yosef, that when we have the bittul to Yosef, and Yosef isn't afraid of Ein Hara, and he disseminates tremendous amount of blessing, which was what the Frierdiker Rebbe did, to reach all places and to reach also in the lowest of places, to bring down Chassidus without worrying about an Einei Bisha, is when we cleave to the Rebbe, and we do that, we will merit very soon the promise when Yefutzu Menesacha Chutza, with the coming of Mashiach. This is Sichos Chof Mar Cheshvan Tovshin Daled Mem.